Hello, folks. Welcome back to Fireside with the Colonels. South Africa. How's it going, folks? So once again, it's Wyatt Toit somewhere in an undisclosed location in the Northern Cape or Botswana or Namibia. We're not really going to tell you where he's at. And Chris Wyatt here in central Pennsylvania. Wyatt, Chris,
good evening. No, it's going fine.
Excellent, excellent.
As you said earlier, it's been a while, but we have been quite busy.
Yep.
Over the past couple of weeks. Yeah, great to be back. I got some excellent stuff
Recording in progress
tonight.
Sorry, you got what?
What is going on here now?
No, I had not hit the record button for the Zoom, so I just hit that. You should be good.
So I got a notification saying that.
Yeah. Sorry about that. No, you and I were chatting before, and I usually start as soon as I started. That way, if YouTube censors my channel, I still have the recording for other platforms. So sorry about that. You were saying something about insurance. What did you say? Did I hear correctly?
No, I say I got some. We got some interesting news for the listeners tonight.
Oh, okay.
Because you are coming to Uppington.
Indeed, I am.
Yeah.
Wait a second. That's my news. You stole my news. What, do you work for the ANC? Yeah, that's right, folks. In fact, last night booked my ticket, and I never take the insurance in case the trip gets canceled or something like that because I always make my trips. But with all the corona nonsense, and besides, in South Africa, the insurance is dirt cheap. It was $5 or $10 for the 2 tickets I booked last night. Whereas in the U.S., when they want to charge you that travel insurance, it's $100 or $200 for a ticket. So for $5, I can take the chance of getting scammed by the insurance company. But I've booked my ticket, folks. What he's talking about is on the 19th of August, I'll be flying to Uppington, and I'll be there till the 21st. And there's my host right there. We're going to get together. We're going to have a big gathering, and hopefully I'll get to see Uppington and take a look around, and we'll see how it goes. So, yeah, pretty excited. I've never been to Northern Cape, so I'm really stoked about this. I'm chuffed.
Yeah, what we plan to do is to organize a couple of more colonels, and we will all sit on a little stage with our fire, and we are going to book our tables, round tables, and we can house approximately 120 people in that venue. Nice venue overlooking the Kalahari. And yes, people can then eat, have something to snack on while we are chatting. All the plans are slowly but surely falling into place. So you might be surprised when you arrive here to have a fairly full program. Of course, we would like to fill that venue, and I think we will. I think we are going to have more people who wants to come and listen and to participate than we got space for. But we can change the venue if there's too many interest. But we will know over the next 2 or 3 weeks exactly where we are standing. But we do plan something big, Chris.
Excellent. Well, before we get any further, let me just recognize Allison Johnson, who's been a member for 5 months. She's got her Statue of Liberty icon. So thank you, Allison. Appreciate your support for the channel. Really do appreciate it. Well, listen, I'm really a low-maintenance, self-directed guy. Been a private all the way up to colonel. You know how it is. I'm not one of those West Point blue blooders who expects people to carry their bags, but I'm going to leave this in your hands. I've never been to the Northern Cape. I'm only there for 48 hours. I'm at your disposal. You pick something you think I need to see it with someplace to go. I'm going to leave it to your discretion. Hopefully, I'm going to count on you for transport. That way, I don't have to get a hire car. And yeah. I don't know if there's a mud hut somewhere I can stay, or if you can help me get accommodations set up that are within reason. That would be great. And so we'll go from there. But I'm going to put myself in your hands.
Yeah, no, we will organize all the transport, all the food, everything that needs to be done. We will organize that. We will do a live broadcast that night on Sideland Media as well as on your channel, this one. And I'm going to market it as Fireside with the Colonels. Of course, I won't be alone with you. There will be a couple of other guys. It'll be something which is very how can I put it now, popular in South Africa is is story evenings where the people actually gather and they talk about the army days and what they have done, etc. More or less what we sometimes do. But I think that night we will also bring in a lot of this little stories and stuff and mix it up a little bit and make it interesting for the people. And they will hear stuff that they will never hear at another place or happening. But yes, I will give in due time, I will give you a full program of what we are going to do. We are going to put you on the radio station as well. Are going to give you a nice little briefing. And then we must decide, because in the Northern Cape, nothing is close by.
Yeah.
Distance is not that important, but there is time restrictions that we do have, and that will determine what we can go and have a look at, what is nice, special in the area. But yes, we will prepare that.
Sounds brilliant. Two things. Number one, when you introduced me, just call me Koos Del Rey. So there you go. The Leon van de West-Transvaal.
Yeah.
That'll put me in good stead. And number two, I'm really looking forward to it. I've never been to the Northern Cape. I've always wanted to go. It's just always such a long journey when I've been there in the past. And when I was based in Gaborone, it was a bit out of the way, and I didn't know anyone over there. So I'm really chuffed about coming. I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be a highlight of my trip. And I got to be honest with you. I've never been frightened or concerned about my safety in South Africa because of my, I'm aware of what's going on around me, and I know the situation. I'm a little apprehensive about KwaZulu-Natal this time around. I'm a little concerned about people, messing with highways and trying to stop vehicles. So I'm going to have to be hyper alert, I think, when I'm down there. But I'll tell you this, coming to Uppington, I don't have a care in the world. I know I'm going to be fine.
No, you will be fine. And we will take care of that as well. We will see that there is sufficient security measures in place so that you can have a nice and a safe rest at night.
Well, excellent. I'm really looking forward to it. And of course, you're coming out of winter then and going into spring. It's that time. So it's my favorite time to be in Southern Africa is August and September. It's absolutely brilliant. My first trip ever to the region was in August, September, and it's always stuck with me. And when I lived down there, I just love that time of year. So I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be fantastic. Also, for folks, get a chance to learn more about the radio station he's talking about there. And I'll start promoting that more and try to get you a listener base. Have you got it full on radio station now, or is it still just streaming over the internet?
Still just streaming over the internet. To get something done in South Africa nowadays is almost impossible. Yeah. I'll give you an example. My wife had to go this afternoon. She went to Inter Home Affairs to get her passport renewed. And when she arrived there, they told her no, because of load shedding, she must be back at 12:30. So she went back at 12:30. And when she arrived there, she was told no, they are now having lunch. So they will only start later, and they don't think they will be able to help all the people in the line. Now, interesting, why not take an earlier lunch while there is load shedding? But they don't.
Of course not.
And I think that is becoming more and more a problem also in South Africa. Yeah, terrible.
Yeah, I saw a post. Someone posted something yesterday on social media, and I think it was actually Conscious Caracal. It wasn't his post. He was reposting something someone else had. And I don't really used to pay attention to Twitter, but I saw this, and excuse me. What it was saying was an article about Cyril Ramaphosa. I think it was about how he's used the media to craft the impression that he's a strategic thinker. I laugh. Strategic thinker. Well, he's such a visionary that he saw the July insurrection coming last year and then ignored it for 4 days as KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng burned to the ground and 354 people were killed. And only 4 days later said, oh, we have a crisis in South Africa. Such a strategic leader. You know, a strategic leader would have realized what was coming with that court decision and would have had cops rehearsing, ammunition pre-positioned, vehicles tested and inspected, convoys put together, military on standby in pre-position locations, ready to be activated. That's what a leader would do. That's somebody with strategic vision would do. Now, that's at the tactical level, but they would realize that at the strategic level and direct the operational people to make it happen at the tactical level. Did I miss something there?
Yeah, but Chris, the fact is they were warned well ahead of time.
Yeah.
They were warned 14 days ahead of time. But they said, we are not interested in you. We got our own people who moves in our own circles who will know the truth. Because the company that warned them was basically a white company, a white-owned company.
So they were dismissed. So they were dismissed.
The white warning.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's a big problem that we are having in South Africa. It's a question of they try to know best. And I'm not arguing the fact that he's a strategic thinker. Or maybe I do. But the fact is they were warned.
Yeah.
But they did not react.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm sure that nobody from ANC watches my program. They were warned on this channel on the 29th of June that this was coming to KwaZulu-Natal. Now, I don't have any sources in Soweto. I didn't know that was going to happen in Gauteng, but I said it was coming to KZN, and I said it was going to be bad. Now, I didn't expect hundreds of thousands of looters. I expected tens of thousands and some murders and things like that, but it was wow. But I mean, you know, this was so easy to see coming. And here we are 1 year since it happened. It started on July 9th last year. At this time last year, we were right in the middle of this nonsense, the absolute middle of this nonsense. And it's just crazy stuff here, what's happened over the last year. Now, earlier this morning when you and I were chatting, I sent you the link for the program. I sent an article, which I don't think you've had an opportunity to read because you've been busy, so I'll summarize it. It was an op-ed piece by Adrien Basson. Listen, I don't know how you can be wrong so many times and still have a job unless you're a progressive leftist. That must be the answer. But Adrien Basson is wrong once again. In the op-ed, which people probably didn't see because it's on News 24 from Naspers and people don't want to pay their paywall. But as a journalist, I've got to get in and read all these things, so I pay for it. But in the op-ed, Adrien Basson takes the argument that it's time for drastic action, that South Africans must be disarmed. We must take firearms away from them. The only solution is to take guns away. I would agree with that statement if he means criminals. But if he means law-abiding citizens, disarming them will have the opposite effect of protecting society. I mean, think about this. So the only people that Adrien Basson wants to have weapons in South Africa are the SANDF and SAPs. Now, we know SAPs rent out or sell firearms that they've confiscated or their own sidearms to criminal syndicates. We've got evidence that there are 25,000 missing sidearms from SAPs that can't be accounted for. That's just one report. So that's who you want to entrust with firearms and leave citizens defenseless. Now, he makes the argument about Japan and Shinzo Abe having been assassinated with a homemade gun. And, you know, Japan only has 10 murders a year by firearms. So clearly they're doing something right. My argument, and I'd like to get your take on this, is that Japan, what they got right wasn't confiscating firearms from people. It's they have a moral society, by and large, that respects the rule of law and values life. That's lacking in much of South Africa, and it's certainly lacking in parts of the United States. What do you say about that? Do you agree or disagree?
Yes, I do agree. You know, I saw some stuff yesterday or earlier today, actually, where 4 well-armed policemen were robbed at gunpoint by 3 thugs. And their weapons was taken away, 4 against 3. And they must protect the citizens of this country. They must protect the people. Now, in South Africa, there is an average of 67 murders a day. Mm-hmm. And something is drastically wrong inside our
society,
in our population,
in our society.
In our society. Something is wrong. But the point is, there is no more. The police is not a threat. They got no authority left. So the bandits and the looters and the plunderers and the criminals don't have any respect for the police, neither any fear for the police or the justice system. That tells you that we are actually a criminal state because the criminals got more rights. It seems to be because 80% of all cases never went to trial and or not being captured. And if you say, well, we must take away the guns are from the people, we got two problems here. One, the legalized gun owners, the hunters, and people for their own protection, and then you got the criminals. How do you know whether a criminal got a gun or not? Because there's no records. So you cannot follow up to an address and say, okay, this guy got 3 or 4 guns. But the legal firearm owner got it. There's an address. There's a place where they can go to take it. But I think once they start disarming the people, that's when you will see an uprise from legal gun owners in this country. Because the legal gun owners also had enough now of the criminal action, of the way how they are being made out as the criminals. So maybe it's time to become illegal if they want to take our firearms away. Maybe that's the time where it is our duty as citizens of this country to say, no, not a step further. Here we will stop you. We had many discussions on this whole issue. Up to now, they haven't come forward. Up to now, court cases and stuff have kept them at bay. But that will only last so long. And then eventually they will come for our weapons. If you look at how Becky Sally reacted over Ian Cameron's comments or questions, that's the political leader, the Minister of Police. What he said there and what he has done, the way how he has portrayed himself in public, tells you a couple of stories. And one is inaptitude. The second one is he don't have any human skills, or not human skills.
Interpersonal skills.
Personal skills, yeah, interpersonal skills. And thirdly, he gets angry when he is being posed with a question that he can't answer. Whenever they are being shown the mistakes they have made, they get angry. So how can you expect from a Minister of Police a logical approach to the firearm question? So at a stage, they will come forward with force and they will use criminal activity to justify it. But the criminal activity is not being done by the people whose guns they want to take away. But then in criminality, in the crime that is happening in South Africa currently, there's waves and waves of crime on every level that there is, lies opportunity for people to almost, under the cover of legally, steal more, more corruption, more power that they can gain out of their position. So everything that is happening, even from ESCOM down, all the problems that there is, I believe there's a power behind this, who's stimulating this violence. Because the more violent the country becomes towards the election of the ANC leadership at the end of the year, the less control Ramaphosa have. And if there can be violence and the dust settles, we got a new government who came to power by force. So there's a lot of threats in this that many people don't see. I mean, people talk about in 2024 they want to unseat the ANC. They want to beat them at the polling, at the voting box. But we must first reach 2024.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's what I said. I said 2021, you had to change things at municipal level, but people didn't go to the polls. 31% of eligible voters. The ANC got 13% of the eligible voters to vote for them in November. That's a resounding no in my book. Now, all the opposition parties got less than that put together, but the point is that 13% of eligible voters. It's just crazy, absolutely a disaster. No, speaking of Bekele, I put out an advert to hire a garden boy. I received some CVs. He's unqualified. I can't hire him as a garden boy. So just letting you know that. Okay. He didn't make the cut.
No, he didn't make the cut. It's a shame that people like that can be in charge of a once prosperous country. They've destroyed this place. Interesting. The media is kind of picking up. We all of a sudden now have this movement almost against the ANC, like the ANC must fall. There's articles appearing in the news that has never before appeared. Stuff that they would never have recognized as wrong in the past is now starting to pop up. And there is a general feeling of more and more resistance to the ANC. But they still see a political solution to the problem. They still see negotiations as a way to normalize South Africa. Unfortunately, I think it's too late for that.
Yeah.
We are going to sit with extensive violence, which we can't stop. This kind of stuff, this action should have been taken 5 years ago.
At least 5 years ago, if not sooner. Now, the problem I have with all this is that, you do see some things in the media now that you haven't seen the past 2 years, especially. The media were so complicit in the lockdown, so complicit in the theft of liberty, so complicit in oppressing South Africans and silencing any voices that even raised legitimate questions. And you are seeing some articles, but at the same time, you still see the same nonsense carrying the water for this garbage. Melanie Verwoerd puts an article in News 24 a couple weeks ago when Cyril Ramaphosa's secret stash, Cyril Ramasofa, stuffing dollars in Pala Pala in his ranch. And she runs an article, A2, Cyril, not you too. Tell us it isn't true. I mean, there must be an explanation. What do you mean there must be an explanation? I got an explanation for you. The guy's a criminal. Case closed. Forex not disclosed. Who has $4 million US stuffed in their sofa? And why isn't it in a bank? So, so she's carrying the water for him. And then we see today, Fin24 carries an article about the Minister of Labor talking about, well, it's a disaster. We can't privatize Eskom. The government's here to ensure that there aren't market failures. Excuse me. Of course, the guy saying this is a communist. He's a card-carrying leader in the South African Communist Party, and Fin24 gives him an interview. You should be asking him real questions like, why have you failed? Why is a country that provided 60% of the electricity in sub-Saharan Africa in 1994 incapable of providing electricity to its citizens today? How is it you have 52,000 megawatts of installed electrical capacity, and on a given day, you're lucky if you get 30,000 megawatts of power delivered to South Africa? What about that? Those are questions, but instead it's a cream puff piece. So yes, there are changes, and yes, we're seeing more of it, but I think it's too late. Like you said, this should have been done years ago. It's too late, and these are token things. I think what the media are doing, Wyatt, is they're climbing onto the middle of the fence post, waiting for which way the wind blows, because they finally realize that their collusion has made the country so ungovernable that it's going to go one way or the other, and they want to say, well, see, we said. They're putting themselves, they're positioned in the middle like typical scumbag rats in the progressive left. That's what I think the media is doing. That's my assessment.
I agree with you, Chris. The point is, it's too little too late.
Yep.
And that's what I want to stress to people is that the time to place their hopes in the current system to either rectify it itself, which it can't, or in the current services, protection services like the police and the defense force. They don't have the capacity, they can't do it, and they don't have the political will to do it. And ultimately, we who have built this country to pre-1994 standards are now the outcasts and the wrong people. But we won and we say, listen, we've been warning for the past 10 years at least that this is going to happen. We were always being accused of being right-wing, far-right, and all those type of nonsense, while we are just ordinary citizens worried about the future of this country, and we realize that we got to do something. Now, there's dangerous grounds, because at a stage, at what point it becomes your civil duty to respond to the situation. I mean, every officer who have served in the SADF, every non-commissioned officer who served, declare in a decree that he will give his life to the protection of the country, not a political party, to the country. So it is your duty to see that the stations are not plundered, that ESCOM is not plundered, and a lot of other stuff. But everybody is hanging back and say, well, but it becomes your duty to do something. The point is, it's dangerous talk.
No, they got to be really careful about that. Even on this side now, we're seeing a retired 3-star general who is hired as a mentor for senior officers being sanctioned by the federal government because he had political speech, which is allowed for a retired officer. And he didn't attack anyone personally. He just refuted something that a leftist in the government said and said that this isn't true. And so they've suspended this 3-star general and canceled his $50,000 a year contract he had mentoring senior officers. This is very dangerous. I also came across a video that was being shared on TikTok about a young non-commissioned officer in the U.S. Army who lost her marbles over the Roe versus Wade being overturned and went on and on about how this is discriminating against women and how can I defend the Constitution when it doesn't give a rat's ass about me. And I spent some time last night taking her video, breaking it down, and giving responses to it. The first one, which is it's easy to support and defend the Constitution because you took an oath to support and defend the Constitution, not Donald Trump, not Joe Biden, not Democrats, not Republicans, not any of that. You support and defend the Constitution, and the Constitution is your guide star. And if you can't follow that, then get out. And the scary thing that I have to say, Vine, is that just 2 years removed from active service, this is allowed in my Army, that someone can use social media wearing her fatigues on deployment abroad and ranting about the political system. That's not allowed. If I was still an officer on active duty, I would be punished and prosecuted for that. As a non-commissioned officer, they have more leeway, but you can't go in your uniform with U.S. Army and your name and your rank and sit down and make a video and attack the U.S. government. This is being tolerated because they're cowards, because she's female and they're afraid of being accused of being misogynist or something like that. You can't tolerate this nonsense. There is complete breakdown in order. We've seen it in the SANDF. We see it here in the U.S. military now. And I got to say, it's heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking. There's 2 developments in my Army that have disturbed me greatly in the time I've served. The first was when the Abu Ghraib situation in Iraq happened. I was serving in Africa, I think, at the time, and I heard about Abu Ghraib. I'm like, nah, that can't be true. That's not my Army. And then I knew that one of the people that was involved, an interrogator, because he used to work for me, very devout Christian, honest man, a good parent, good soldier, never did anything out of order. But in fact, he did play a role in the homicide of an Iraqi general. I was gobsmacked to find out that this behavior was allowed, and the reason it was allowed is because the leaders weren't present. They weren't overseeing the operations. They don't want to go down this prison, so they just let the thing run wild. And ill-disciplined, younger troops got the upper hand, and people went along with it. So that shocked me to my core that such a thing could happen in my Army. And now this nonsense, teaching critical race theory, telling officers and young cadets at West Point that white people are inherently racist, and people can't see that that is racist in and of itself. This is not a good direction we're headed, and it's not a good sign if the U.S. military allows this and then silences people who are standing up for the actual rule of law. It's pretty frightening, and I don't know where we go from here.
But Chris, it's exactly that type of stuff that is creating more racists.
Exactly. If you want to turn people against other groups of people, then constantly attack one group of people dishonestly, and they'll just get pissed off.
yeah, you know, if you are being targeted constantly by what is being said about you or whatever, then gradually, surely, and people like Becky Shelley shouting at a white guy because he wouldn't have done that to a black guy, then there is something inside you that is starting to rise. And the South African politics are polarizing the people. But it's happening in the United States. It's happening at many places in Europe.
Yep.
So somewhere along the line, this whole thing is going to explode. The Black Lives Matter stuff a year or so ago, or even longer, 2 years, two years ago.
2 years ago now, yep.
Black Lives Matter created more racist feelings inside normal people than ever before.
Barack Hussein Obama created more racist feelings in people than ever before. He got record numbers of white Americans to vote for him. More white Americans voted for Barack Obama than any other president in history when he was elected. And then he turned a whole thing into a racist narrative. The guy is a privileged little turd who's never had a poor day in his life. Ugh. Anyway, crazy stuff. Hey, folks, you're listening to Fireside with the Colonels with Colonel Wynand to Toit in Uppington, and I'm Chris. Whoops, we gave it away. Now I know where he's at. in Uppington, and Chris Wyatt here in central Pennsylvania. I'm retired from the U.S. Army. He's retired from the South African Defense Force. Folks, we do this fortnightly program when we're able to, but it's been a month since we did it last time. So welcome back to the program. If you're not a subscriber, I see that we're over 200 viewers right now. Please become a subscriber. For those who don't know, my old channel had 23,000 subscribers. I was bigger than many of the South African YouTubers covering South Africa. And then I got spanked by YouTube illegitimately and my channel wiped away. We're now over a year since this channel's restarted and we're struggling to gain subscribers, although we've been picking up some lately. So if you're just coming in for the first time, hey, it costs you nothing but a moment of your time to hit that button just right down there.
That was easy.
And you become a subscriber. And you hit that, if you want to get notifications, hit that little bell. If not, just leave it there and be a subscriber. Help us grow our base because numbers help. Numbers multiply. The more you have, the more hours of view, the more views you get, the more YouTube will notice your channel, and the more people aware of it, and the more you can grow, and the easier it is to get the word out. I mean, you would be hard-pressed to find anybody outside South Africa, except for maybe Scott Bolson in Australia, and I don't know what he's up to these days, but you would be hard-pressed to find anybody outside South Africa who covered Senekal, Senekal 2, Brockenfell, the Witkois Monument ceremony every year, the biker rally against farm murders, and all the other things that take place in South Africa. But right here, you get it here. And you get it from someone that's not a South African, which, whether you like my viewpoint or not, it's a different viewpoint. And if you want to be informed, be a critical thinker, you should listen to other viewpoints. Anyway, so yeah, I just need to let people know that they're listening to our program. Thanks a lot, and please become a subscriber, folks.
Yes, I'm being South African and living in South Africa. I can assure you that your channel is carrying more weight than most other channels. And I can tell you that your knowledge about South African and international affairs is extremely good, especially about South Africa. There are few South Africans who know what is going on in South Africa as well as you do. And it is also because you are standing outside looking into South Africa. It's always to an advantage looking from the outside in. While I was farming in Brazzaville, Congo, every time I came back to South Africa, it was easy for me to discern how things has changed, because I haven't changed with it. But in South Africa, people are living and changing with the situation and the conditions. So the borders of normality is shifting. So it's normal now to have 60 murders a day. People are living with it. It's normal because they've shifted their borders of normality. And that's happening when you are inside. If you are outside looking in, it's a different perspective. And that's why I advise people to subscribe to your channel and to listen as many times as possible.
Well, all I can say is bye-bye donkey. Okay, Ball. Appreciate letting people know about the channel. It's a pleasure to actually cover South African events. For those who don't know, let me just a few seconds, Vine, because they don't know, a lot of people here. I've been following South Africa since the 70s when I was a kid. When you were actually in the bush, I was still a kid coming up in high school, and I've been following it since then. I followed Rhodesia and Mozambique and Angola from afar from the U.S., absorbing all I could about it. And then I read a book by James Michener called The Covenant, historical fiction. It was about South Africa, and I fell in love with South Africa, and I started following it. And then from South Africa, it became the borderline states, and from there, my interest grew, and eventually it became all of Africa. I went in the Army after a year at university. Studied Africa when I was in the Army at night at university, and then got out as an NCO, went back to university, and my history degree was focused on Africa, and particularly Southern Africa, and then came back on active duty and wanted to be an intelligence officer, did that, and then wanted to be a regional specialist for Africa, which I eventually did. And that's how I wound up serving in Tunisia, Liberia, Botswana, Malawi, Niger, Mauritania, Uganda, and Ethiopia, plus having done short duty in over 30 African countries around the continent, and learned 3 African languages to varying degrees of proficiency. And that's kind of how I got interested in Africa. And I've been following Africa since the 1970s, but getting paid to do it since about 1995, because that's when I was designated regional specialist for Africa. So yeah, it's been I wouldn't say a lifelong thing, but it's been something that I follow for a very, very long time. And it is I think you and I have talked about this before. I think the people that aren't paying attention to Africa are making a huge mistake in 2022, because in 2050, Africa is the next big thing. 2.6, 2.4, 2.6 billion people. Even with all the people leaving Africa, it's still going to be that large based on fertility rates that exist now. Even though fertility rates are coming down, it's still going to grow that much because there's so many youth who are going to have kids regardless of what you do. And people need to pay attention to it. It's the next big thing. And so I'm hoping to convince a lot of people to pay attention to it. By the way, thanks for the folks who just became subscribers. Hein Jacobs just became a subscriber. And then Devi, the Iron Brew, became a subscriber. Thank you for that. By the way, if you become a paying member of this channel, support independent journalism, you get a salute. You get a hand salute from a colonel. How often does a colonel salute you? If you become a subscriber, and I see it like Evald Bottenhausen just did, I'll give you a wave. You get a wave for a subscriber. You get a salute for membership. Anyway, so it's a little perk, I guess.
Yeah. I still don't know how the super chat stuff works, but I think you must be a subscriber and donate something or what else. I'm not sure how that works.
I can explain it very quickly, and that's for anybody that's here, because maybe we can pimp some. There's a super chat just came in, and then when I'm there, I'll make sure you know how it's done and get it set up. You got to be monetized, and 2 things just happened here. Oh my goodness. Number 1, Patrick just gave 5 gift memberships to people. You can do that now. You can gift membership people. And Lori Lettinen, who is in Finland, just gave 10 euros. He said, my girlfriend has been trying to get documents from South African Home Office for 3 years. Literally nothing happened. She got it handled through a private company offering escalation in 3 weeks. Yeah, that's because the private companies go and pay the bribes to the lazy officials in the Home Office, and it gets done like that. And meanwhile, you're in the queue. It never gets done. Gary Green has just become a member, so there's a salute for him. That's from Patrick's gift membership. All right, so here's how it works. So you have to have a monetized channel, which I'm sure you're capable of. You got to have the 1,000 subscribers. You got.
I have.
Yeah, okay, so you're monetized. Yeah. So the super chats is a button at the bottom, and it's a way for people to, get attention to their comment and donate to the channel. They just have to have a credit card or a debit card registered with either Google or YouTube, because Google owns YouTube. And then you're logged in your account. There's a button at the bottom side there, either on your mobile or on a browser. You push it, and it comes up with predefined amounts, but you can change the amount. There's a minimum, but it's a pretty low minimum. And so there's another membership, Chris van der Westhuizen.
Yeah, I know Chris.
Now the reason. Oh, okay, I don't know him, so you have to tell me about it. But the reason for the salute is because they get a chance to get a screen capture. So it's just my thing. So I do the salute because I have a little zombie. It comes up on the screen. And if they want to do a screen capture, the screen capture of me saluting when their name comes up. So, yeah, we just see that Sandri Markgraf was given a gift subscription too. You were saying?
I know Sandri as well. Sandri, stay well there in Mossel Bay, eh?
Oh, Mossel Bay. I'll be headed down that way. Part of my trip, yeah. Yeah, looking forward to that. Should be exciting. And there's Talon Bezuidenhout just became a member too, courtesy of Patrick. Wow, Patrick, man. Patrick gave 5 gifts memberships a few days ago. He's the first person to do it on the channel. It's a new feature that YouTube came up with a few months ago, and I never really asked people to do it because it seemed odd. But since membership costs are so low for the entry level, then you can give 5 really easy. And so here's the last one, and this is Us London.
Yeah, East London, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's East, but it's in Afrikaans spelled Os. So, yeah, East London. Yeah, East London. Yeah, so, yeah. There you go. That's the 5 memberships. Thank you all for becoming members, and thank you, Patrick, for granting those memberships to those 5 folks. That's pretty cool. That's pretty awesome. So, by the way, folks, if you're curious, just give me a second, Vine. I just got to let people know this. If you're curious where that money goes, I had a custom-built gaming machine with, massive video power, the best video card, and Hein Jacobs just become a member. That is on his own, I think. No, that was actually another gift. That was the last gift from Patrick. So I built this big gaming machine, which was $2,400 a year ago to make sure I didn't have trouble because my previous machine, the video card was built into the motherboard. It was slow. The studio lighting, the travel that I do, I use the money from this channel to support that. I don't live off the money. I mean, it's not that generous, but it is nice to people that can afford to give it. A lot of people are in bad way because of the economy, because of the lockdowns. A lot of people lost their businesses. So we don't ask that you super chat. We don't ask you to become members, but if you can, we appreciate it. And the money does go to good use. Don't worry, I don't have a Ferrari. There's no jacuzzi here. That's not where the money goes. And besides, on this end, Uncle Sugar takes 28% of it, and then the state of Pennsylvania takes another 3% before I see a penny. And of course, YouTube takes 30%. so by the time they're done, a little bit comes this way, and I put it to good use. So if you do become a member, if you do super chat and give a super thanks or a super sticker, it does go to good use. So thank you very much. All right. Anyway, so let's get back to. Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
But it's interesting because I had to prove to YouTube about my tax in South Africa and that I'm registered in South Africa, which I did.
Yeah.
But they are still withdrawing a percentage every month for the United States. And I don't earn anything in the United States. I earn it here.
Yeah, that's wrong because there's a reciprocal agreement for taxation with South Africa. And so you're not supposed to be taxed by the U.S. You're supposed to be taxed by South Africa. Or if they do tax in the U.S., then you're supposed to be able to deduct in South Africa. But yeah, they shouldn't be doing that. That's just messed up. Yeah, YouTube is not taking that tax out on this side. They've been threatening to do that for 2 or 3 years. They don't do that. But what they are doing is they're cheating me, and I'll tell you how. YouTube sets the exchange rate artificially low from rand and pounds and euros to dollars and every other currency. And then they leave it there, and then they take the difference. So I have seen super chats that someone sent. I had a $500 super chat, by the way, a couple months ago. It was very generous from a South African. It came out, it was thousands of rand. It was $500. YouTube took 46% of that at the current exchange rate because they use a lower exchange rate. They took the 30% plus another 18%. They're just criminals.
But when I first monetized the channel,
yeah,
about two and a half years ago,
yep,
everything was in order, accepted as well, but I need a PIN. And Google posted Postal service.
Right. Oh yeah, I know. It takes forever if you ever see it.
It is locked down in South Africa. The Postal service is non-existing, and I knew I'm not going to get a PIN. And there's nowhere an email address where you can talk about it and say, listen, guys, email it to me.
No phone number either. No phone number either. Yeah.
I've waited almost a year. And then one day, suddenly, this PIN arrived at their house. But anyway, they've saved me a lot of money up there. It grows every month. I can't get a payout because I didn't have the PIN.
So you got it all in the end, though, right? I mean, or did it eventually?
Yeah, I
okay,
did.
Okay. All right.
I did.
Okay, you're getting paid because the conscious character, Ernst van Zyl, who now works for AfriForum, does a really good job. And I was astounded to find out that he had never gotten a payout from YouTube. I didn't know that. So I organized a kind of a bum rush. I asked my viewers to come over to his stream one day. We were going to surprise him and do super chats. And we went over there and he got like 10,000 Rand in one day. It was awesome to get him all those. Well, it was about 10,000 Rand. He was in tears. I mean, he was so excited about it because the guy works really hard, does some really fantastic objective commentary on South Africa. And it was sad to hear that. But with YouTube, when my original channel was suspended and I started the new channel, I had to wait to get remonetized, of course, the 1,000 subscribers, the 4,000 hours, which took me about 6 or 7 weeks to get that back. But when I originally monetized my first channel, which I'd had for 16 years, or 17 by the time it was canceled, when I first monetized it, Roman Kabanak from Morning Shot had 6 or 7,000 subscribers, and I didn't have 1,000, and I was working towards it. He applied for his pin, and it was he didn't get monetized till like 2 or 3 months after I was monetized. I grew my channel, got monetized, got my pin in the mail, and he was still waiting. I don't laugh because it's funny. I laugh because it's sad. But it's not just that. During the campaign for 2020, Ronaldo Gos in Nelson Mandela Bay, someone in South Africa wanted to order some Trump caps and asked me to do it, and then it would send me the money. So I ordered Trump caps, and they wanted me to mail it, and Ronaldo wanted this pumpkin latte thing for his wife from Starbucks. And so I ordered all this stuff. I put it in a box. It weighed less than 2 kilos, I think it was. Shipped it to South Africa. It cost $340 or $314 to ship it to South Africa. So that's thousands of Rand. Then it got there, and they refused to forward it until the receiver paid tax on it. They charged the import tax at 48% of the price that they claimed that the goods were worth. The goods were worth $70. I paid $314 to ship it there. $70 was the value of the goods. Then they claimed the goods were worth $400, and they wanted 78% of that as a fee. And so it sat there for 8 weeks, and I paid for 2-day delivery. Yeah. It's broken. Now, fortunately, it didn't cost me any money. They paid for it, but they did get their Trump hats, and then Ronaldo's wife did get his coffee.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. Now, the services are gone in South Africa. It's non-existent.
Yeah.
Now it's DHL and the courier guy and all the delivery services. They are very good.
Well, that's who it was, DHL, but it was customs. They couldn't clear customs. Customs held the box. It wasn't DHL because DHL was fine. They got it there in 2 days. They provided the service I paid for, but it was the criminals in the South African customs. That's who did it. Yep. It's crazy stuff. So we've got who else is here? Andrew Toit came in. Having visit. Yeah, where you been, Andrew? You got to show up more often here, man. On a shadow band channel, we're desperate for viewers and viewing time. Anyway, but there's Jan Engelbrecht said that thanks to Finland, because we see the super chat from Lori Lettinen in Finland. And Jan says that my ancestors from Denmark. Yeah, Denmark, where, Vine, I don't know if you know the story, but 2 years ago, the government in Copenhagen said that, well, we think that there's a variant that mink have, and it can transmit to humans. So we've ordered all 17 million of the mink in the mink industry in Denmark to be culled. They killed 17 million mink. They polluted the water table. They damaged the entire industry. The Danish mink industry was the most valuable on the planet. It produced 45% of the global revenue, the best quality mink pelts, and it was over a century old, completely gone, completely wiped out. 2,000 mink ranchers out of business, and they've paid out to them 2.5 billion euros. But that doesn't take care of tomorrow or the next day or what they're going to do in the future. It wiped out. Now what they're trying to do is wipe out all the farmers in the Netherlands. There has got to be some sort of master plan to this. Either that or these are the most incompetent people on the planet. By the way, the reason I mentioned the mink thing is the report finally came out and said the government acted criminally, illegally, violated the law, had no basis whatsoever, politically or scientifically, for culling 17 million mink. What a horrible situation.
Yeah. No, that is. I just want to come back there to Jan Engelbrecht.
Yeah.
You will probably be able to meet him when you come to South Africa.
Okay.
And he's not too far away. Living in a small place close to Askam in the Kalahari.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah, I'm looking forward to your visit here. I think we will have a tremendous time. But anyway, yeah, let's carry on.
Yeah, no. Hey, we can talk about the trip. I'm excited. I get the impression you're excited too. I'm genuinely excited. I'm really looking forward to coming there. And it's not simply to go to the Northern Cape. I mean, look, it's kind of desolate. You know, that's not the attraction. But meeting all these interesting people and finally getting to see you in person is going to be really enjoyable for me. And again, it's going to be a highlight of the trip. I'm going to meet a lot of incredible people. I'm going to see a lot of incredible things. But all that's in the air. None of that's scheduled. 19 to 21 August is set. As long as Airlink gets me to Uppington, we'll be fine.
No, they will. Airlink has been performing throughout the lockdown. It's not a large airline. It's a smallish airline. But I mean, they are reliable. They are on time. Most of the times you are gaining a couple of minutes when you are flying here from Joburg or the other way around. But yeah, the biggest problem for me is whether I'm going to show you the Grabis waterfalls, which is a tremendous thing to see, or whether I'm going to take you to the deep Kalahari there near Jan's place in Askam, to Hakski and Pan, where they are doing the land speed records that the British are doing with their Bluebird car, jet engine car and stuff. So I will have to decide which way we are going. We will see who offers us the best options.
All right. Well, like I said, I'm really looking forward to it. And a super chat's about to come through from Smee again. Glad to see you, Smee, again. I hope you're doing well. He says, Colonel Toit is so right about Colonel Wyatt, looking from the outside and seeing the bigger picture. Salute to both colonels. And thank you for the super chat there, Smee. You know, he has been trying to super chat for about 10 minutes. Apparently had trouble getting it through. He must have had to put another card in there, but YouTube, I guess, lost the details. By the way, folks, if you're a paying member of this channel or Wynand Toit's channel or another channel and you're on YouTube, if you value your membership or if it's important to you, remember the date that you signed up for it and check to make sure you're still a member each month, because YouTube habitually disenrolls 25% of paying members every month. I have no idea why they do it. They do it on channels all across the spectrum, even progressive channels. It happens. It may be a failing in their system, but 25% of people get dropped every month that don't ask to be dropped. They don't cancel the membership, it gets canceled. And all I can tell you about that is if you get canceled, I think within 72 hours, as long as you go in and redo it, you keep your icons, you keep your access to things and your longevity. But if you don't, you lose that. So I'm just letting people know that because I know that's important. That's one of the things that people become members for, because next to their name, like Patrick has got the Matterhorn. The Matterhorn says he's been with this channel for a long time because you have different icons for that, different emojis. And then Sandri Markgraf, who just got the gift membership, she has, by the way, the first level on my channel, you get an RDP house. So when you become a member, you get an RDP house for 30 days. So the Reconstruction Development Program. So the ANC gives you a house. Now I got to warn you, there's no fire pool in the backyard. There's no plumbing and there's no hookup to ESCOM. So it's just a plain RDP house. After 30 days, you move up to the next level.
That's the hut that we've been talking about earlier.
What's that?
That's the hut.
Huh?
That you have talked about earlier.
Oh, the hut. The hut. Yeah, that's the hut. Yeah. Yeah, I thought you said something else. I heard Lester Hut. I mean, who is Lester Hut? That's the hut you were talking about earlier. Yep, that's the one. That's the one. RDP house. That's Debbie's laughing. It's an RDP house. Now, Debbie has a castle because she's been around a long time. But yeah, the first level is an RDP house. But it's a typical RDP house. We can't promise you electricity. Oh my goodness. Anyway, yeah.
Well, you can't even promise electricity to what's that? To the guys living there in Northcliffe or Sandton or in Oak Bay or any of those places. So,
yeah, no, it's crazy. Here's the thing that I get a little bit nervous. You're in the Northern Cape. I don't know if you get any juice from it, but I'm a little concerned at some point here about what's going to happen to Coburg. That facility is aging, and I don't trust the ANC at all to maintain it. We've already seen lots of problems with that facility over the years, and it's a nuclear facility. It's not the same as, you don't stoke the fire in a coal fire facility and just shut it down. In a nuclear facility, you got to kind of control the reactions going on in there.
Yeah, I've warned a lot of times about the Cuba situation. Just remember, it's ESCOM. Now, the same workers who blew up the Neo generation unit in Medupi,
Yeah, the news station.
7 days after receiving it into service, brand new, that same people is working also in Cuba.
Oh, God. Oh, my God. Retemish.
And few people know and realize it. We also sit with a little nuclear facility in Pelindaba. That can also go wrong.
Oh, Lord. Okay, let's shift for a second. Let's talk about something that's even more depressing than all this other stuff. Wales won in South Africa Saturday. Never won in South Africa in 58 years of trying. Wales defeated the Springboks in Bloemfontein at Toyota Stadium, 13-12. The Springboks were up 12-3 with 10 minutes left in the game. And then Dan Bigger went out for an injury. Gareth Anscombe came on, and Wales won. Thoughts?
Yeah. I watched both games. The first one and the one of the Saturday. I thought that we have started off well. There was a lot of pressure from South Africa. We should have scored at least 20, 25 points in the first half.
Yep.
We couldn't get through. And then there was a slack that came into the game in the second half. And I think that's about the time when Dan Bigger left the field. And I think in the players' minds, they thought, well, now the key player is off the field.
Mm-hmm.
It's now going to be easy. And that's the mistake they have made.
Yep.
But, yeah, at the start of the game, I was sad that I wasn't there. That I didn't travel all the way to Bloemfontein to go and watch the game. Take the kids with.
Mm-hmm.
And now afterwards, I'm glad I didn't. Because it would have been a huge disappointment.
Oh, no kidding. Oh.
Now I want to go to the Springbok match in Mbombela against the All Blacks.
Yeah.
And this loss now caused me to think, well, I don't want to travel from Uppington to Nelspruit.
Yeah, it's a long journey.
And then they lose the game. Yeah. I don't want that.
Well, and in fact, if they play like they did the first test or the second test, they won't beat the All Blacks. Now, the All Blacks aren't exactly world beaters. They're in disarray right now, too. They lost again to Ireland this time. First time Ireland's ever won in New Zealand. And, of course, last year they lost to Ireland. They lost to France the final game of the season. But I don't know if you saw the World Rugby rankings. South Africa, because this loss took a huge beating, they went from first with 90-plus points to third place behind France. France is now the number one team in the world, followed by Ireland because they beat New Zealand, South Africa, and then New Zealand. So France, Ireland, South Africa, New Zealand. That's rare air there. We're not accustomed to seeing anyone other than really South Africa and New Zealand at the top of those rankings. Pretty crazy.
I still got to ask the question,
Yeah.
The two teams, 14 changes for the second match.
Mm-hmm.
The third match. Is it going to be a combination of the two teams?
Yeah,
or
yeah.
still more players that they want to play, more players that they want to try out? And, we can only hope for the best.
My prediction is it's a mix, and you're going to see Faf de Klerk back at scrum half, even though he wasn't particularly sterling in the first game, but he is the top scrum half they've got out there. You'll probably see Pollard at the fly half, and you're going to see Peter Steph du Toit back again. I'm not sure if Dwayne Vermeulen will come in, but they should stick with Evan Ruiz. I think he proved himself there at that position.
No, he played well.
Yeah, and Jasper Wiese can come off the bench. But you're going to see a mix of the two teams, but you're not going to see the likes of Jaden Hendricks out there. I would like to see Kurtley Arendse back again. He's a very dynamic guy for the Bulls. I'm really excited to see him. And what I didn't know is I found out recently that he had been mentored by Chester Williams before Chester died tragically of a heart attack a couple years ago. That was a big disappointment for me because I was going to Japan and Chester was going there. He started this new beer brand and it was going to be sold in Japan. I wanted to link up with him and interview him and meet him, and then he died just before that. It's kind of sad, but yeah, no, I think we'll see a mix of both of these two squads, and I told people about this before that. My analysis before the game, I said, the reason for 14 changes is because Jacques Nienaber is doing exactly what Rossi Erasmus did in 2018. When the Springboks came to D.C. to play in our dilapidated third world stadium in D.C., what an embarrassment, RFK Stadium, he played so many debutants, so many people on debut played that game, and they made mistakes left and right. They lost to Wales when they easily should have won the game, especially late. They squandered an opportunity, and Rossi didn't care. He wasn't worried about winning that test match. He was worried about bloodying his players to see who had what so he'd be prepared. And from that, in the next couple of series of matches, it wasn't a particularly good season. They had a winning record, but it wasn't a great season. They had a lot of dicey games. He knew what he had going into 2019, and it worked. It worked. They're doing the same thing this time. So I'm not thrilled with that because I hate to see the Springboks drop from number 1 to number 3, and I like to see them win all the time. I'm greedy, but I know what they're doing. I told people that, and that's exactly what's happening. The one problem I have with this, Vine, is I took great offense and umbrage at the fact that the BBC and press in Europe said that South Africa is fielding a B side for the second game. It's insult to Wales. I mean, you have the former World Rugby Player of the Year, Pieter-Steph du Toit, the runaway winner of it in 2019, the World Cup season. You have half a dozen, or 9 actually, players from the URC final from the Stormers and from the Bulls in this starting lineup and on the bench. You have 8 Rugby World Cup winners on this side that were starting. I mean, give me a break. This is not a B squad. They're just that deep. It really irritated me. And then Jacques Nienaber comes out and basically says, well, if we'd started our first 15, do not call the first test match your first 15. Elton Yankees is not a first 15 guy. Not even close to it.
Not.
And so don't even make that claim. So that really irritated me. I took great offense to that. I think the bottom line is that those two teams against anybody in the world, except maybe France, England, New Zealand, could win on any given day. You'd have to mix it up a little bit to win. Yeah. So I mean, that's just stupid. So anyway, but it's look, it's over. They lost. They got a game this weekend. We'll see what happens. But if they lose this one, then there's going to be people calling for the head of Jacques Nienaber. They're going to be screaming for his head. It's going to be Alistair Coetzee all over again. By the way, Alistair Coetzee and Velviches, they've qualified for the World Cup yesterday, defeating Kenya Simbas 36-0 in France.
Yes, I've noticed. And, of course, that will be my second team during the World Cup.
Yep.
Always supporting the Namibians.
Same
here.
here.
They are playing. And when I look at the guys on the field, it almost feels like our own players, you know. It's the same with the Springboks. When the Springboks are playing, the Namibians are supporting them as well. Yep. So, yes, it's nice to have the two teams in the World Cup.
Well, and in yesterday's game, Johan Dijssel got a try, the captain, and Vian Conradi scored 3. He got a hat trick, 3 tries in that game. Well done on his part. They played really well. You know, it's interesting because I went to Houston and Dallas for the last game of the Major League Rugby season at the first weekend of June. And I flew down there, and I interviewed folks from Houston and went to the game. Then I went to Dallas and interviewed. One of the players I asked to interview was Adrian Boyson, who's the number 8 for the Velviches. And he had been in Japan, so we talked about a really good interview. It's up on my Rugby Ascendant channel. It's also on this channel if people are curious. My interview with Adrian Boyson. If one of the mods could stick that link in there in case anybody wants to watch it, so you can see an interview with him a few weeks ago, just before he did this World Cup qualifier. But he was on the team yesterday, and it was congratulations to them. I always root for the Velviches. I have a jersey from 2015, which was hard to come by, but I got it. The red road jersey, which is one of my favorites, and I have the 2019 jersey. I want the jersey so bad that when I went to Toyota City for the Springboks and Namibia game, I stood outside in line at one of those, merch stands, back and forth, snaking through the queue with all these Japanese. And there were all these Namibian jerseys hanging up there. And as I waited 45 minutes or so to get through the queue, they kept disappearing. and there were no more under the shelf. And I get to the front. There's no one left in front of me. And the guy straight ahead, because it's a long, you go up to the stand where they're at. There's about 8 different clerks selling things. The one right in front of me points to the last jersey hanging. I'm like, oh! Ugh. But it was a large or extra large, and he's a little diminutive Japanese guy. So they hand it to him. He goes, and he hands it back. So they put it back on the shelf, and I get ready to run, and he leaves, and I run right up to the counter. Let me see that one. And I got my Namibia jersey.
Yeah, no. I can imagine the wait.
Yeah, no, but it was worth it. It was really worth it. They're inspiring to see them to do so well. There's 7 consecutive World Cup. When Alistair Coetzee became the coach, I got nervous. As a Stormers Western Province fan, I'm not exactly happy. And as a Springboks fan, I'm not happy with his tenure. With Western Province, they only won 2 Currie Cups. They should have won 5 Currie Cups. And they only went to 1 Super Rugby final, and they lost. They should have won 2 Super Rugby titles and 5 Currie Cups and his tenure. But anyway, of course, we know what he did with the Springboks. Nothing particularly good. But anyway, so they're in it. And they'll be in a tough pool. All Blacks, France, Italy, and Uruguay. The only team there that I think is vulnerable is Italy. They might be able to beat Italy, but it's going to be a tough one for them. And just before we get back on the other stuff, one of my favorite all-time games is in 2015. I was in, was it Exeter, I think it was, and it was Georgia versus Namibia. That's the game that ended Jacques Borger's international test career because he was injured. And after that, he hung up his cleats for international test. 17-16 was the final. So close. They nearly won that game. It was almost their first win in World Cup. So anyway, so there. So let's shift a little bit back to some of the news stuff here before we get a little further down the road. So this 1-year anniversary, that's not a good term for it, but the 1 year to note what happened last year. No prosecutions, nobody's in jail, the so-called 12 mastermind ringleaders, there's just usual suspects that were trotted out by the ANC. Nothing. No police chief sacked, no minister sacked, no station chiefs, no intelligence people gone, nothing. There's been no consequences to the insurrection last year, the internal ANC insurrection, except to the victims who lost their lives. Some of them were criminals that lost their lives, but there are also innocent people who lost their lives, and also the people who lost their businesses, their homes, their livelihoods, and their jobs, working for Game or working at Mass Mart or, whatever, that's gone. Poof. And no consequences.
The situation is infuriated certain people. There's a guy who owned all the malls that was plundered, the buildings, and burned down. And he has sustained tremendous losses in the process. Now they don't want to see this thing happening again. So what are they in effect doing? They are doing everything possible to get rid of the current system. Although on the wrong way and the wrong means, because their only alternative is another political party or another system, or where a lot of minority parties together can form the majority and then govern and kick out the ANC. The problem is, for me, is that even if the ANC is being kicked out during an election, they are not going to leave. We have seen that in Africa, in almost all African countries. And that's sad. And people are now warning. I've actually done a stuff this morning. Yeah, this morning I did this. Here my papers is still in front of me. There's a couple of actions that happened last year that people haven't noticed. And the one thing is that they kicked off this whole looting spree. Is that the night before it started, guys went in and they stole at Massmart tents, gas stoves, lamps, sleeping bags, camping stuff, but a huge theft. And they encountered no security to stop them. So the word spread that there's no security. And the next moment, everybody started looting there, which perhaps was organized. I think so. I think it was organized, but it covered up the initial crime of the theft of the gear. And there's another incident that happens at the Choppies store, the Choppies the shops all over Botswana and here. But there somewhere in Joburg area, a Choppies store was robbed at night while the people was packing the pallets and stuff with food that needs to go out. When 40 armed men dressed all in black uniforms came into the place, rounded up all the workers, collect their cell phones, throw it in a box, and throw a jammer in the box with the cell phones. Then the next moment, a minibus arrives with forklift drivers. And then 14 interlinked trunks move in. And they stole 11 million worth of dry rations, no sweets, no cool drinks, no nothing, only dry rations. And they left after 4 hours successfully. That's the type of stuff that the population and the people haven't heard of or seen of. So there we got sort of preparation of gear and food to an extent. Then the second action that the people don't know of is the 2 containers of AK-47s that was in Durban Harbour, which was supposed to be offloaded in Cabo Delgado, but because of the ISIS activity, it was shipped to Durban as a temporary safekeeping.
Temporary safekeeping.
Yeah. At the same time, a container filled with ammunition that was supposed to be dropped in Cape Town, past Cape Town, and was also offloaded in Durban. The AK-47s, 2 containers full of them, and a container full of ammunition. And apparently a lot of it was 7.62 by 39, which is the ammunition for the AK-47s. The fourth action was the fact that they have robbed all the radio stations of their equipment, and they have even stolen repeaters and stuff. And the fifth action was that 1,200 ATMs was robbed of a total of more or less 120 million rand. So here we see gear, weapons, ammunition, communications, and cash. The stuff that you need to start an uprising.
Yep.
And the question that needs to be asked here is, where is that stuff? When is it going to be used? And if we then listen to the reports and certain stuff that is starting to get out, they talk already of a second insurrection in South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
But on a larger scale than the one in Natal last year. So the atmosphere, everything is working up to a point at this stage. We are hearing stuff, more and more info is coming in, and about also secret meetings at Nkandla, once again. So we must expect it, and it's going to pick up towards the election of the ANC leadership at the end of the year conference. And apparently the timeline is to get it ready for that time and to be ready at that time. And also, if they can do it at the end of November, it will be better. Now that's the type of info that we are getting in at the moment, and we can't confirm it yet, everything of it, but definitely it is pointing towards something that is or going to happen in the near future. Now, the only thing that can pre-jump this one is, in fact, if Eskom, the grid, implodes.
It collapses, yeah.
If the grid collapses before that time, that will be the end. If the grid keeps up on some or other way until the end of the year, I think end of November, towards the elections and the annual conference of ANC, that's the time where it's going to happen. You know, looking at that, coming Friday, the 15th of July, there is an auction taking place at Denel, the old arms factory development, who build the Rooi Valk and the Rooi Kat and all those type of equipment. Denel can't pay their personnel for more than a year now. So they got to sell those equipment now to be able to pay it, and it's by means of a court order, of course. The question I ask, if we look at all the planned actions, there's 5 things that has happened last year undercover, and we look at the state of the police, Becky Sele, the leader, the military, and we look at the Nel who is manufacturing this, who must provide spare parts to equipment. Who is going to stop this action? How are they going to do it? It is impossible. And in the end, it will be the innocent citizen, the law-abiding citizen in between, that will become the victim. So, for my side, I think that there will be a repeat of July of last year. It might not be now, but definitely by the end of the year. And everything points in that direction. But we got to ask the question, what is all the shootings that is happening in South Africa currently?
Yes, I was going to get to that. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, and in fact, that's well stated. There's a couple things you said there that events I was unaware of, like the trucks driving up, and then some of the locations where camping equipment had been stolen the night prior. I was aware of a lot of those other things, and as it unfolded, from a distance, I could easily say that this was very well orchestrated and organized. You don't, the nonsense comes from the government and the media that's just, gratuitous, opportunity, crowd dynamics. A lot of that's going on, sure, but you use that to your advantage if you know what you're doing, and that's what was going on here. You don't attack and ransack radio stations that are reporting to the public unless you have an intent. You don't destroy a crematorium. I mean, that's just gratuitous. I mean, what are you going to get from a crematorium? The flame burners so you can cook? And there's nothing there except coffins and bodies. You don't get these shipments and containers. And, oh, by the way, how do they know? There are hundreds of thousands of containers sitting in the port of Durban, and they found the one that had the ammunition. They found the one with the AK-47s destined for Cabo Delgado, or for Maputo or Cabo Delgado. Yeah, there's definitely something going on here, and there's definitely involvement from actors in the state. I have no doubt about that. I said it then. People accuse people like me who made these statements and made this analysis of just being outlandish, and I'm not outlandish. I stick by that. It sounds like we're of the same opinion. And you just painted a very frightening picture. And add on top of that the piece you threw in there that the grid is limping along. And I don't think a lot of people realize that when a grid goes down, you don't just turn it back on. You have to shut everything down. You have to take one piece at a time, bring it back, get it operational, then put a load on it, then the next one, then put a load on it. Otherwise, you risk getting a cascading effect of the whole thing collapsing again. Think about that. Yeah. And so if the entire grid is how that collapses, you're going to be without power for days. You'll have people in parts of South Africa who don't have power, even if they're perfect at getting it back up, who won't have power for a couple of weeks. That's going to be a total mess.
Chris, I don't think that we will be able to get the grid up. Yes, we got the tools to start it. Yes, there is the knowledge to start it. There is a proto team that can do that, supposedly. But to start up a station, you need every worker to be there.
Yep.
There's a sequence that must happen. You need power. Now, if the grid is down, say, for a week, where is this workers going to come from to start it up? Because by that time, they have started looting and plundering.
Yep.
How are they going to get to their work, to the station, to start it up? I mean, if you look at the irresponsible behavior of the workers at Eskom, how can we expect them, when there's a total power down, to now, all of a sudden, be very responsible and arrive at the scene? So, if you look at the difficulties in starting a Black Star, you must realize you need dedicated people who know their families are safe at home. You cannot be worried about what's happening in the streets of Middelburg or Witbank or one of those places. You must know your family is safe when you can go and give your full attention to restart this specific station. And the fact that the police can control the people, no, because I don't think we will be able to restart it.
I think it's a legitimate concern. I mean, I don't think that you're off base on that at all. I mean, it's quite a frightening prospect, which I don't think most people realize just how big a deal this is. It isn't a trivial matter about this restarting the grid.
But Chris, just to give you an example, about a week ago, there was a protest in Boeiens in Pretoria, one of the voorstede. That's Afrikaans word.
The suburbs.
Suburbs.
Yeah. By the way, Vorstede. Do you know what that is in German? Vorstede. That's Afrikaans. Do you know what it is in German? Vorstadt. That's how I know what the word is.
So there was now protest against service providing. Mm-hmm. But as this protest moved along the streets, they broke down water meters, electricity meters, even a wall of a house, throw the stones at the houses, glasses out, everything. People flee. Why destroy if you are unhappy with the service of the municipality? Now, and that's the point. If we get to a power implosion, why would they now suddenly be responsible if they cannot be responsible under normal circumstances?
Yep. No, absolutely. You know, and it's just gratuitous. It's at Senegal, the second Senegal in 2020. The EFF claimed to be going to Senegal to protect government property, yet they destroyed rubbish bins that are made out of concrete, by the way. They weren't easy to destroy. They'd smash them. They ripped down signs that were in Afrikaans, because most of the street signs are Afrikaans names, and they just left rubbish all over and destroyed the center of Senegal when they're supposed to be protecting. They're just all frauds. But hey, folks, if you are not a subscriber, you're tuning into Fireside with the Colonels. This is a fortnightly broadcast, although we don't always get it done fortnightly. Colonel Wynand and Toit in Uppington, and myself, Colonel Chris Wyatt, here in Pennsylvania. And we'll be linking up in August when I arrive. I'll be coming down to Uppington from the 19th to 21st of August. If you're in the area and you'd like to come by, he'll be setting up the events. Just check out for announcements about that. We can do a meet and greet. I'll be doing a radio program with them, but I also, while I'm there, would like to set up a meet and greet so that people who like to know about the channel or who watch the channel want to come and meet me and maybe potentially go on air, or at least just meet me. We're going to do that. This is my South Africa tour, you know, kind of like a rock band. It's the South Africa tour, the Colonel's tour to South Africa. So let me get a couple things in from the chat, because I've neglected that for a little bit. First, Gavin Hofmeyer. First, I thought this said Devin Hofmeyer. I'm like, Devin's here. Hey, I got to get a hold of his dad. No, but Gavin Hofmeyer, and I see you have the same affliction that the other Hofmeyer, like Steve has. Your family couldn't afford the other vowel. So if we get more super chats, I'll buy you an extra E for Hofmeyer. You're missing an E there. Anyway, I'm just teasing. But he said the head of the nuclear agency to resign today. I didn't know that. And then also Jan Engelbrecht, Afrikaans, little rusty, Vadia, Huli, Cornel, Salut, Bayer Weisheit, Faran, uns Kandle. I think he's saying, well done, Colonel. Salute to you. You guys have knowledge we can learn from. I think that's what he was saying. What else we got here? I want to bring in very quickly here. Oh, Richard Lemmert asked a question. He says he wants our opinion about the Soweto pub shooting. Apparently, the police picked up 130 AK-47 spent cartridges. Before you answer, let me just say what I've said, and I'm not a conspiracy person at all, but it seems quite odd to me that 3 shebeens in 3 separate locations where there's serious tension between the Radical Economic Transformation faction and the Ramaphosa faction of the ANC. 3 locations, Soweto, one of them, and then Peter Maritzburg in KZN. 3 locations, people walk into shebeens and just start shooting people. There aren't that many nutters on the loose on a given night that are that well armed. They walked in, they shot people, they executed people, and they just left. Now, they found 9mm at one of the locations, the actual 9mm. So this is not random. This is not out of control gun violence. This is orchestrated, planned, and conducted by somebody with malicious intent. That's my assessment. I could be wrong. What are your thoughts?
Chris, we must just remember that this is actually a battle indicator of something worse to come.
Yep.
If you look at any revolution, whether that is whoever, ISIS even, all those guys, they first start with violence, unpredictable locations, bomb explosions, attacks, and they were probably left behind a sign of sorts, or a word, or a name. And then eventually that installs fear in the citizens. And then you are slowly forcing them to take your side, or at least be sympathetic to your cause. So there might be information which we don't have at this stage, which is being kept apart, like a name or a slogan or something that has been painted against the wall, or a piece of paper, a little letter left behind. But this is how all revolutions start, by violent attacks on people, either by means of bomb explosions or attacks like this. We have seen it all over the world happening when there's an uprising of some sort. So this is for me a battle indicator. It will happen. Now, I made a joke with you earlier. I sent you that poster about the cannabis festival in Soweto this past weekend.
Yeah.
I asked you whether maybe there's a relevance between this cannabis festival and the attack. But I don't think there's a relevance, but that's just for interesting sake.
Yeah.
I couldn't help.
No, that was entertaining. There's a question from Charles Hopkins, someone that I don't recall, but welcome, Charles. It says, what's up with the U.S. military in South Africa? You know, that topic's come up. I've not found any press releases on it, but let me just tell you what happens in general, okay? Because people are spreading nonsense around with screen captures.
Yeah.
The U.S. military is defending the ANC. Let me just lay this to rest, okay? We have an office in South Africa at our embassy in Hatfield. And their office is actually, I think it's back in the embassy compound now, but it used to be at a commercial facility where the Scandinavian embassies were located in Hatfield, near the University District. And it's the Office of Defense Cooperation. That office, which is one I headed in Botswana, in Liberia, in Uganda, around the continent, and Malawi as well, that office is one of the only ones left in Africa called Defense Cooperation, because they have an office, we call them Office of Security Cooperation in the rest of Africa. The reason it doesn't go in South Africa is because they have something called the OSC, the Office of, or the Open Source Center, where they look at news media. So anyway, not important. The bottom line is that there's an office at our embassy with accredited diplomats who are in uniform military, and they have civilian South Africans that work for them, whose responsibility is to build relations with the host nation military and security forces, to lessen tensions, and to provide training resources, and to sell equipment to certain countries. So when we sell M1 Abrams tanks to Morocco, it's our Office of Security Cooperation at our embassy in Rabat that does that. When we send South Africans to the Army War College, to the NCO Academy, that is done by our office in Pretoria. This is a normal course of events. Now, one of the things we do, and I don't know what's going on in Bloemfontein because I haven't seen AFRICOM release anything, but I'm speculating, and this is probably pretty accurate speculation. We have a program called Mill to Mill. It's called M2M, the number M, M2M. And the Mill to Mill program is what Congress gives the U.S. military money all over the world for our combatant commands, European Command, Africa Command, Indo-Pacific Command, Central Command. They're given money to do familiarization and build relations with host nation military. So for instance, when I was in Botswana, I would have the Botswana Defense Force would have a meeting with members of the North Carolina National Guard. They came over to Botswana, and the money we were given for this is not for training. If we call it training, we get in trouble because that's a different pot of money. It is to build relations. And so an example of this is the North Carolina National Guard came over to Botswana, and they met with the Botswana soldiers, and they explained how they do combat or convoys. So they do rehearsals and preparation and inspections and maintenance, and then they go on the convoy, and they do it. And you don't just get on the road and drive. You know, Vine, you just can't get with military vehicles. You can cause traffic accidents. So you've got to have spacing. You got to have march credits. You have to start at a certain time. It's all choreographed, just like a music video. So that's how we do it. So we shared that with the Botswana Defense Force. Then they shared with the Americans how they do it. And then as part of the event, they all got together. They did a whole convoy preparation and did a convoy out and around Gaborone and came back. And we learned about the BDF. They learned about us. We built relations. And another example of that is that when I was there, we had a full colonel from U.S. Air Force and a senior NCO, a senior master sergeant from the Air Force, come to Botswana and give briefings to the Botswana Defense Force leadership and their personnel section about how the U.S. Air Force has a professional development path and a career path clearly defined for officers. So like in the Army, if I'm a lieutenant, I'm expected to be a platoon leader, or you might say platoon commander there. I'm expected to be an executive officer in a company, then become a company commander, and then become an S3 or executive officer at a battalion commander. If you do those things, plus you meet education requirements for degrees and military schools, then you can advance. Plus you have to have the performance. The Botswana Defense Force had nothing like that. They just looked and said, okay, this is the guy we're going to promote. So now, because of that event that took place in 2008, the Botswana Defense Force is professionalized, and they have a clearly defined path on what jobs you're expected to do and what education level you're expected to have. And that's all consequence of this. Now, I don't know what's going on in Bloemfontein, but I suspect it's a mill-to-mill event in which we sent people down there from one of our services, and they're working with the SANDF. We do this all the time. We've gone to Lohotla. Is it pronounced Lohotla in the Northern Cape, the big training area?
Yes, I think, Chris, that this is probably a joint exercise.
Or that. That's where I was headed with the Lohotla, yeah.
Yeah, with the parachute battalion, which is stationed in Bloemfontein.
And is also part of the combat group that's going to Cabo Delgado.
Exactly. And then from there, they can easily, especially if they have to jump in at Lohotla in a combined exercise, they will depart from Bloemfontein to jump in Lohotla. Or any of the other training areas, but it's normally Lohotla where they do it. And there's more different countries that is doing exactly the same thing at Lohotla, and we just don't know it. But the C-17 don't land in Bloemfontein and you don't see it, because it's a very, very large aircraft, different looking. And there is, of course, now questions, why is it the United States Navy's plane? But that's a plane that was probably available to do the job.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, we used to fly up to the border those years, either in SAF C-130s or C-160s, Hercules, or we could have flown with Sapphire.
Yeah.
It depends on the availability of the aircraft.
Exactly.
Even at the stage, they had some Boeing flying to exchange the personnel. So that's a normal thing. But the people in South Africa is paranoid about all external forces. If they saw a Chinese guy in a uniform walking, then the Chinese has taken over the country. But the Chinese are doing it exactly the same as that you are doing. They also got an office at the embassy. And when they attend a military function, they will dress in their country's or his uniform, and he will attend the function. Now, on his way back, he will probably stop at a Super Spar or a Pick and Pay to buy something.
Exactly, and he's in uniform.
Yeah, and now the people sees it, and now all of a sudden the Chinese has taken over or busy taking over the country. And people must be careful about that.
Yep.
There's no external force in the world that will just jump into a storm into South Africa and take over the country, or take out Ramaphosa, or take out Zuma, or take out who else. That's not how it works.
Yeah, no, it's the same thing with the nonsense I've dealt with for years. You know, the secret military base the CIA owns at Tebe Patswe in Botswana. I've been there hundreds of times. The CIA is not there. If they're there, they're very well hidden. I know all the operations. I know what goes on there. But you will see U.S. troops there. You'll see Canadian troops there. In fact, the Canadian attaché was not very good at informing me. I was very good at informing the attaché, who was based in Pretoria, because they don't have a mission in Botswana. But he would come up periodically. I would tell him about my activities in South Africa and in Botswana, but he never told me. So one day I went out to Tebe Patswe for my North Carolina Air Guard, who was out there working with the C-130s. And here's the irony. The C-130s that the Botswana has, 3 of them came from the North Carolina Air Guard. So that was just happenstance. They wound up with this relationship. They came out there and they're like, "Hey," the guy's like, "I used to fly this plane," and everybody. I was up in the cockpit, and people are like, "Well, yeah, no, we all fly this plane." "No, I used to fly this frame. This airframe was the one I flew. I've got 1,200 hours in it." He recognized it from the number. But yeah, so you'll see that happen. And it's important for people not to just lose their minds about this stuff and understand what's going on here. So if you're going to take that approach, I've been to South Africa multiple times in uniform. I've been to the ENSP, the Executive National Security Program, and I've been out to the peacekeeping center that they built in Pretoria in fatigues. I wasn't invading or taking over South Africa. I was there on official business at the invitation of SANDF, and I was helping the Brits because they were building a peacekeeping center there. Anyway, it's people. You're right. It's not just South Africans. It's all over the place. All these people claim 79 U.S. military bases in Africa. They're off by 78. We have one. It's in Djibouti. That's it. The rest of them aren't ours. Not even the one in Niger. That doesn't even belong to us. So I thought it was important to mention that. But thank you for the question. I appreciate that. It's a good question, and it's one that has to be discussed because people really, really don't understand what's going on, and they're misled by people in social media all the time. Complete misled. And that simple thing I've just explained to you, think about that. Then think about when it comes to lockdown and the Rona, and when it comes to taxation and this. Think about how many times you're misled by people in social media and in the media every single day. Think about that. And you've got to be a critical thinker. You've got to think for yourself. Swancut says, need to start the commando system again. Well, it never should have been disbanded. It was disbanded on a lie. Disbanded on a lie.
Chris, another thing that is baffling people is the rumors that's going around about so-called FEMA camps. FEMA.
Yeah, are you talking about our Federal Emergency Management Agency?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even that at the States, they have a lot of social media messages went out about the FEMA camp at Uppington. And there is no such thing because it's a Federal Emergency Management
Agency.
Agency.
Yeah.
And they are part of the National Guard in the United States. This is the people they employ with Katrina and those type of situations. And that's another misconception here in South Africa, that here is many FEMA camps being built for very bad purposes, to lock people up, to restrain them, and that type of thing. And that just caused unnecessary panic and tension in the people if you spread a rumor about that stuff.
Yep, it's not good. But one thing I do need to correct for clarification so people aren't confused. FEMA is a civilian agency. It works closely with the National Guard, but they're not part of it. So what the confusion, I think, comes for a lot of people is that when George Bush created the Department of Homeland Security, a whole bunch of stuff fell under it. For instance, the Coast Guard, which used to in peacetime be the Department of Transportation, now belongs to Homeland Security in peacetime. In wartime, they're part of the Department of Defense. FEMA is it was an independent agency, but it's got a relationship with Homeland Security now. But FEMA is completely civilianized, and they have responded well sometimes, and they've responded abysmally at other times. But yeah, their job is really that of coordinator. They're like the nerve center, like to put people in touch, the sheriffs, the emergency medical services, the helicopters, the guard, the active duty forces. That's their job to do it. And in Katrina, they did a poor job. not entirely their fault. They were hamstrung by the state, which refused to cooperate with federal authorities to their detriment, and many people died unnecessarily because of that. That whole thing, I don't know the exact number now. I used to know because I reported on this years ago, but when they lied about Katrina and what happened in Katrina, they said the thing was failed. I reported on all the things that the U.S. military did with the National Guard, the Reserve, and the active forces because I was in the Pentagon in the basement as it unfolded. We watched it unfold, and we moved troops every single day. Before the storm even hit shore, we had over 600 helicopters pre-positioned in Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, and Texas for relief. We had the total number of troops was over 145,000 troops, 178,000 troops at some point from all those forces who were there doing relief. We had water bowsers there. We had water decontamination. We had graves registration. We had all this stuff in place, and they responded as quickly as they could, but they were hamstrung. So if you look at Mississippi and Alabama, no one talks about the disaster of Katrina. They were also hit by that storm. But the U.S. government worked well with the state governors because they were Republicans. But in Louisiana, it was a Democrat, and the Democrats wouldn't work with the Bush administration, and we had total chaos. Plus, to be fair, New Orleans got hit worse than those other states. But still, but FEMA is a separate thing, and they've gotten a bad rap in the past. But at times, FEMA is very good at what they do. But once again, any organization where you pick a head of the organization based on a political appointment, you could get Jackie Salibe or Becca Chile, or you could get someone that knows what they're doing.
Yeah. No, it's true. No, I just wanted to clear that as well while we are talking about
yeah,
the
no, it's a good point. It's a good point.
It's a good thing that we talk about this FEMA thing as well. Because people believe everything.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's very dangerous. You can't believe everything. I mean, you must ask questions about what you are hearing and stuff. And then, of course, social media is so easy to just forward a message. You haven't even listened properly. Mm-hmm. You forward it.
Well, there's absolute proof. So here's a perfect example, Divine. So when I was in Texas, I arrived late because of American turd lines. I call them turd lines instead of airlines. It was this is the second trip. I went to Europe. They screwed me. They screwed me going to Texas, and they screwed me coming back, even worse. But 4 days of my life I lost because of this airline on these two trips. But going to Texas, instead of arriving in the afternoon on Thursday, I arrived at 5:30 Friday morning. I had to pull over at a rest stop in Texas because, Texas, it's like driving the crew. It's just miles and miles. There's nothing. Anyway, so I had to take a little 45-minute cat nap on the side of the road so I wouldn't have an accident. Got up. I got there at 5:30 in the morning. I looked up at the Exxon station because I needed petrol. And I had a little tiny car that I rented. And it said gasoline was $4.19 a gallon. Okay, so I went to Dean Chancey's house. That's where I stayed at, by the way, with Dean Chancey's house. I slept there. I got up a few hours later. I went over, and I had to run around Houston that day to NASA and other places. So I topped off. It was $4.29. It already got up 10 cents in like 4 hours. So I went around Houston all day, went to the rugby game that night, came back, and the price had gone up again to $4.35. So I came back the next morning, topped off again, and the machine was broken. It wasn't giving out the receipts from the machine. So the first day I went inside and waited and got my receipt. And then I went back in. I said, listen, guys, could you print me a receipt? And that's 2 days in a row. Could you fix that? And the guy said, sure. It was an Indian fellow. He said, no problem. We fixed it. And then and his boss came out and said, are you getting gas? I said, no, I've already filled up. He goes, lucky you. I said, why? He said, because I'm raising the price again. He walked out with a remote control and changed the price. So four times in a little over 24 hours, the price went up. Now, this is the point about people don't pay attention. I made a video, a 1-minute short on YouTube, and I was driving. I just put it on play while I was driving to Houston, 5 lanes. I was safe. It wasn't dangerous. And I'm going, guys, this is crazy. I mean, the price of petrol, gasoline is going up almost by the hour. I've been in Houston for, less than 48 hours, and the price went up 4 times at the same station. So I posted that, and I'm still getting comments about, you're an idiot. You know nothing about economics. What are you talking about? Why are you blaming Biden? I'm like, what are you I didn't say that. People don't listen. They hear what they want to hear. Yeah.
The price went up without being new fuel being
Right,
bought into the station.
right. The tanks hadn't been
same
changed.
fuel.
It's the same fuel. There was never a tanker that came. So, but that's a whole other.
Exactly.
But that's a whole other story. My point is, I didn't even make an economic argument. I didn't make any claims. I simply reported factual information that the price changed 4 times. Nobody disputed me and said, "Oh, you're full of it. Prove to us that the price was lower." No, they just talked about economics because they just want to rant because they don't listen to what's said. And I deal with that all the time. I did another video recently about 90% of firearms. According to the FBI, not according to me, according to the FBI, 90% of the 287,000 firearms used in the commission of a felony in 2021 were illegal. Or excuse me, were illegal. Of the 90% that were illegal, it's only 10% of lawful firearms that were purchased legitimately and they're with a registered owner. Only 10% were used for commission of crimes, usually a suicide or something like that, or a domestic situation. 90%. So 267,000 illegal firearms used in crimes. That's an FBI statistic. I made no claims one way or the other. And then I said, of that, 54% are those that were stolen, which is what the FBI says. So I'm getting responses from people, going on and on about this, that, and the other, and being smart alecks and saying, well, I guess my math is bad. How do you get 50%, 90%? That's 140%. Listen to what I said. 90% of firearms, of the 90%, 54% of those. It's just, it's frustrating. It's frustrating because it's not rocket. Look, if you want to argue with my assessment, my analysis, and my worldview, fine. But then argue with that. Don't argue stuff I never stated. Don't put your views into it. It's like I did a video. One more. I did a video on rugby, and I said, listen, can we speak frankly about Sia Khaleesi and his captaincy of the Springboks? This game, the first test, Sia was nowhere to be found. That team had no fire, no spark in it, and they're lucky to have won that game. They needed a leader on the pitch who fired them up when they were making mistakes and brought them together and got them. But you don't see that. That's not Sia's style. He has been missing in action largely since the 2019 World Cup. Is it time we consider maybe, Sia's not the captain? Now, that's all I said. And before I started that, I did say, now, this is going to get the race hustlers and the racists all fired up, and they're going to dislike this video and give me hates on it. And that's all I said. Well, and that's exactly what happened. Who are you to bring race into it? Why are you questioning the fact he's black? I didn't question he's black. You did. You brought your bigotry into my video. I never said that. Listen to what I said. Foot sec.
No, but it's true. It's true.
Crazy stuff. I mean, it's crazy, isn't it? I mean, now, I don't think you have that problem as much because many of your broadcasts are in Afrikaans, yes?
Lately, all of them are in Afrikaans, and I got a lady who is now put subtitles in English on all my videos, which is helping because I did a couple of English videos, and I don't mind to do it. I actually like to try to do some videos in English, etc. But lately, I haven't done it. Because there is now subtitles for people to follow. And this lady is probably better suited for the correct English, better than I can speak it. So she can translate it more correctly. So, but.
All right, well, I was just curious. We should probably get ready to wrap up because you and I have a habit of going long, and I know you've got other things to do. It's evening there. I see you all bundled up. I know it's wintertime in South Africa, so we'll wrap up here shortly. Yeah. Now, Smee again asked a question, which I don't think it's fair, but I'm going to, since he's a very dedicated viewer to the channel, I'm going to go ahead and bring it up anyway, and you don't have to answer it. I think I'll try to answer it. He's asking me to ask you if the ANC retained power after the 2024 elections, is it time for civil war to rescue South Africa? No, that's dangerous talk, and I don't think anybody's of that view because, the South African authorities are watching people in South Africa. They're not watching the criminals. They're watching law-abiding citizens for them to say something stupid that could get them in trouble. And answering that question could get somebody in trouble. I think that as far as civil war for South Africa, you may find it coming to you before the 2024 elections, the way things are going. That's a real possibility. We've talked about all this equipment that Wynand has mentioned has been squirreled away somewhere. But here's the thing I want to say about that, Wynand. The longer it takes, the longer we get before something breaks out. If it doesn't break out before December or maybe it breaks out after that, the longer it takes, somebody's going to squeal. Not everybody keep their mouth shut that long. They're not that good at keeping secrets. Somebody's going to let the cat out of the bag, and I think we're going to find out where some of this stuff is, unless it happens sooner. Then it might, it might happen sooner. But I think it's an unfair question to ask you about if it's time for civil war. That's just advocating trouble, and I don't think that's a game you want to get involved in.
But Chris, I think no one ever plans a civil war.
Yeah.
It is something that will spontaneously happen when total lawlessness broke out and exists. Then is when it will happen. Nobody wants it, because you must remember, a war is bad, but nothing is as bad as a civil war.
Yeah, because that's a war at home. That's not a war abroad.
Yes.
That's a war at home.
And that's a terrible thing. I don't think anybody in his right mind would wish for that. But we have a responsibility to be ready if it happens.
Yep. Like the Boy Scouts used to say, be prepared. You need to be prepared.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we cannot look at 2024 and say, well, that's the line where everything can happen. No. It will spontaneously happen if something went wrong in South Africa, which can be triggered by ESCOM, by the end of the year conference, by all the other things that is playing a role, like hunger, poverty. We never know when the population is going, and I'm talking about the poorest part of the population in the squatter camps and everywhere. When they have reached the end of the line, it's probably when it will start happening. And we can't predict that.
Absolutely. And that's a scary thing. And that's why you have to be prepared. And you always have to be vigilant. And that's, it's sad that you have to live that way. I mean, like, listen, I mean, if I wanted, I could leave, and I've actually done it more than once by mistake, left my front door unlocked in this neighborhood. I can do that. Now, there are crime-ridden places that are within 30 kilometers of my house, but it fortunately doesn't touch here. But there are very few people in South Africa who have that kind of level of comfort, especially in rural areas, just leaving doors unlocked. You've got to barricade yourself in at night. And that's a sad statement. I mean, there was a time, I'm sure, that people lived more carefree, but you always have to be prepared for this sort of thing and take it as it comes, because if you're not prepared, then tragic things are going to happen to you and your kin. And being prepared is absolutely important. And, people make fun of the prepper community, but the prepper community is onto something. There's a lot of crazy stuff happening around the world. And if it all comes tumbling down, the preppers will survive. The rest of you will be hungry, running around with shotguns trying to avoid the zombies.
And, we must learn from other places where it happened. Even Ukraine now. There's so many lessons to be learned from Ukraine. The evening before Russia invaded Ukraine, the Ukrainian president was calming the people and saying, no invasion will happen. Be relaxed, be casual about it. So when it happened the next day, nobody was prepared. Nobody had money with them. Nobody had food,
no petrol. Nothing. And they walk for kilometers to get out towards Poland, and we know of the clogging at the border post, the cars couldn't pass, and a lot of stuff that happened there. But there's a lesson. It's like insurance. You cannot buy insurance once you have smashed your car. Yeah, it's a bit late then.
You must buy it before the time.
Yep.
With prepping, it's the same. This situation, you must prepare before the time, because once it's happening, you can't prepare anymore. You cannot buy anything anymore. And I understand when people say, listen, I hardly have enough money to live. I understand that. But the attacker, the looter, is not going to ask you, are you rich or are you poor? The Russians did not ask the Ukrainians, are you pro us or not pro us, or are you okay? Do you have enough food? Nothing.
Yep.
It happened.
Yep.
That's war. Now, in a situation where a civil war erupts out of a situation that exists, it's exactly the same principle. People must be prepared. And they make fun of people that is preparing. But as you have said, they are going to survive.
Yep, exactly right. You know, so it's interesting you say this, and this topic came up because guess what did over the weekend? Restock my larder. Went through my restocked my larder. Went through cupboards and went shopping and loaded up again on canned meats. And because it's time to rotate the stock, you know, it's it's also getting a bit low. So filled all that stuff up. That's what happened this weekend. There's all kinds of people running around with all kinds of rumors, but it just happened to be happenstance. It was time to do that. You know, periodically every 3 months or so, it's time to redo that sort of thing. So yep, that's all in place. Fresh new batteries in place for all the torches and everything, and you know, and just making sure everything's in place. Both vehicles are topped off with petrol. You know, so you got to be prepared for that. Now, Corona's Boring said, "Did you see the Russian Speaker of the House suggesting they retake Alaska?" Well, it wasn't taken from them. The Russian Empire sold Alaska to America, so we bought it. So bring it on. Bring it on, Russia.
Yeah, I think that's more a threat than a reality, because there was a legitimate buying of the land. Mm-hmm. A ridiculous low price, but still.
Hey, look, we were bargain shoppers, man. You think that was a good deal? Look at the Louisiana Purchase, 3 cents an acre. One third of our country for 3 cents an acre. That was a good deal. Thank you, Napoleon. Yeah. That was a good buy. Anyway, so there was, I think was there one more thing I wanted to get here, or before we go, someone said, I'll find it back here. Just trying to remember if I found it. Maybe I missed this. Anyway, I probably missed it. But anyway, listen, everybody, thanks a lot for the comments in the chat, for the questions you've had there. I'm glad we had a chance to get to a lot of them today. And thanks for watching the program. Thank you to Smee and all the others who super chatted. Thank you, Patrick, once again for the very generous 5 paid memberships for 5 folks. Hopefully they'll find it appealing and want to continue their paid membership, but there's no obligation to do that. It expires after 1 month if you don't pick it up. And once again, to my co-host, Vyan Toit, it's always a pleasure. Thanks for your time. It's very generous. And today is the 11th. If we do this again before I leave, that would be the 25th of July. I don't know where you're going to be, but maybe we do it again. And let me see. Good.
I'm out on the 25th. Unfortunately.
Okay.
Yes,
well, then we got. Well, we got the.
I'm also picking up. I will be in a little town.
Yeah.
Not far from here, but the internet is the biggest problem. If you don't have a good internet, then it's useless to try it.
All right. Well, then the next one is maybe the 1st of August. We'll see, and then the 15th is the day I leave. But I should be able to do a stream. So we'll figure out the next time.
We will do something before you arrive in South Africa, because I also want to so that I can show you the posters. But I will send it to you anyway.
Okay.
That we can put it up and advertise the times that you are going to spend here in Uppington. But I must warn you. You are going to eat a bit traditional as well. No barbecues, but only braais.
Okay.
You will eat skarpstertjies.
Oh, gosh.
You will eat skilpaaitjies.
Okay.
And then afval.
Oh, gosh.
But I'm not going to tell you what it is. You must now go and do some research to find out what it is.
Oh, my goodness. I'm not a fan of lamb.
But I promise you will enjoy.
Oh, I'm sure I will. And the question came back to me now. It was Hein Jacobs asked if the USA would intervene in a civil conflict in South Africa. I think it highly unlikely that we would do that. The only remote possibility would have been if Donald Trump were president. But I don't think it's likely at all. Joe Biden doesn't know where he's at, let alone what conflict he wants to get involved in. The only conflict he's involved in is the one his cocaine-addicted, prostitute-loving, lunatic son has a big contact with Burisma, where he got the prosecutor fired, and that's Ukraine. And that's what Joe Biden, the Democrats are relying on the abortion issue. They're relying on firearms and mass shootings. They're wrong on that. They're relying on Ukraine. They're wrong on that. And they've got 4 platforms. That's 3 of them. All the things that they're hoping to save them from disaster in November aren't going to save them. And Ukraine will become a non-issue after the November elections because Biden will lose control of the House and may lose control of the Senate, and he'll be under a lot of pressure, and he'll back off of Ukraine. So Ukraine will stop being armed by the United States come November, December, and then they'll either lose the conflict or it'll end peacefully, or Russia will just annex the Donbass and maybe even the entire eastern third of Ukraine by then. We shall see. Anyway, no, the USA is not going to intervene on behalf of South Africa. Right?
Nobody is going to intervene.
Exactly. Most of the world thinks it's April 27th, 1994. Kumbaya, 14-kilometer queues to vote, and 89-90% of the population voting, not the 31% that show up now. They're lost in a time warp. It's not 1994. It's 2022. Time to wake up, folks. All right, Wyatt, any last words of wisdom before we let you go?
Chris, no, just that we are looking forward to your visit, and we will start advertising very soon, and people can buy tickets to attend. It will be a nice seating around the tables. We are thinking about round tables that can take about 10 people, and then we on the stage, and we talk, and people can eat, and there will be food and steak and whatever, and but we will start advertising soon, and I think people all over the country that wants to come and attend the function should contact our call center ASAP, because I think we are going to have limited space of about 120 people at this stage. I wanted more, but unfortunately there's no space to have more people. So yeah, people can start, I think, not booking, but at least warn or put their name down on the list, and we can give those guys preferences for this function with you. And then not only me, but at least 3 other colonels as well, all from the Bush War.
Well, that sounds fantastic. Really looking forward to it. Again, going to be a big highlight of my South Africa tour. I'll be making the banner for the advert for the tour, and maybe even a shirt or something like that. I'm trying to design a shirt for the South Africa tour 2022 for people who might be interested in that. But the banner will go up soon. Also, I'll be putting up announcements with email address on my stream, leaving it up during broadcast coming up, that if you want to participate in a meet or greet, or if you have someone you'd like me to meet from a political party or industry or a social group or musician, and you can make that happen, let me know. If you want to offer accommodation during my trip, I will accept some offers. Won't be able to take all of them. That'll also give you an opportunity to contact me for that, and anything else that you might think it's worthwhile for me doing. I'll take suggestions, but if anyone offers me a suggestion, offers me accommodation, or offers me transport, and I don't respond or don't take it, do not take offense. I anticipate hearing from a lot of people, and it takes a lot of work to make something like this happen. It has to be coordinated with military precision, and that's kind of where we're at now. As of right now, my flight from the States to Cape Town booked. My tickets for the World Cup, the Sevens World Cup in Cape Town 9/11 booked. My hire in Johannesburg, for the Free State and Gauteng, Northwest, and KZN booked. My flight from Cape Town to Joburg booked and back, and then my flight from Joburg to Uppington and back is booked. There's flexibility in there, but that's the big picture thing. There's more stuff to be coordinated, so I thank everybody in advance, and I want to thank Wyatt and all the folks up there in Uppington for helping me make this happen. It's going to be epic. I'm really stoked about this. I'm very excited about it, so thank you so much.
Everything in Uppington is ready for you.
Have
a nice day. Rest of the day, it's evening here with us. We got load shedding at the moment. Fortunately, I got solar. But yeah, see you next time.
All right, folks, Colonel Wyatt Toit. I'll let you drop off on your own there, and then I'll wrap up the stream. So I hope everyone who came in had a good time and learned something and found it useful here. Let me see if I can get him. Okay, here we go. There we go. Okay. So thanks a lot, everybody. I appreciate it. I really appreciate you tuning in. Smash the like button if you don't mind. If you're not a subscriber, hey, why not become one? Doesn't cost you anything but a moment of your time. And I'll be coming to South Africa if you want a chance to meet with me. Looking forward to it, folks. Thanks to my co-host, Wynand Toit. Always a pleasure. I think we're going to have an amazing time as we build up to this event. So looking forward to it. We just need the airlines to come through. Everybody, take care of yourselves. I won't be doing a night owls today because I will be doing a live stream on Rugby Ascendant for a wrap up of this weekend's test, plus the results of the Rugby World Cup or the World Rugby standings, and potentially a call in from Alfredo in Santiago, Chile, who was present at the Mud Bowl that was USA versus Chile in Santiago on Saturday night. So he was there in the downpour, and he's going to call in and talk. So that'll be on Rugby Senate, and then I need to run off to the dermatologist, and because they never return my calls, and see them later. So thanks a lot, everybody. Appreciate you tuning in. It's a pleasure to have you here with us tonight. And this has been Fireside with the Colonels. Always a pleasure. Cheers, everybody.
Take me back to a place where I felt at home. Take me back to a day when we weren't alone. Take me back to an age when the world felt small.
Way back before we blew it all.
Take me back to a place where I felt at home.
Take me back to a day when we weren't alone. Take me back
to an age when the world felt small.
Way back before we blew it all.
Too many things going on, I can't keep track of them all. From people dropping a bomb to people putting up walls. I feel like life is on hold, perception stuck in a vault. I know that time can heal all, but how much time till we fall? It's awfully chilly outside, when there's no shelter to hide. When everything is a lie, you'll find that out in some time. But when the things on your mind are all considered a crime, communication aside,
things on your mind are considered a crime.
It's
not an argument, it's a counter-revolution. Get ready for the counter-revolution.
Can I just get some space? I don't have the heart for this. I can't be picking up the pieces, fixing scars from this. Is this
too many scars?
Or just the start of it? I wanna drive away so I can be so far from it. I wanna find a place where no one breaks their promises.
Everyone breaks their promises.
Drown myself in something that is bottomless.
Take me back to a place where I felt at home. Take me back to a day when we weren't alone. Take me back to a day
when the world felt small.
Way back before we blew it all.
Take me back to a place where I felt at home. Take me back to a
day when we weren't alone. Take me back to a day
when the world felt small.
Way back before we blew it all.
I know that things seem bad, but
they really do.
Much worse. There's
but it could be better. Someone's always got it worse.
A greater thirst, a hunger, pain, and mercy. Just find whatever you got and try to be thankful first. I wanna feel again. I need a couple friends. I never really understood just how the story ends, but I can feel it's tense. Don't know the consequence. The volatility of life, my only confidence. Is
lots
this
of
an
consequences.
argument?
Not an argument. It's a counter-revolution.
I don't wanna be a part of it. Can I just get some space? I don't have the heart for this. I can't be picking up the pieces, fixing scars from this. Is this an argument?
Not an argument.
Or just the start of it?
Just a counter-revolution.
I wanna drive away so I can be so far from it. I wanna find a place where no one breaks their promises. Or maybe drown myself in something that is bottomless.
Take me back to a
place where I felt at
home. Take me back to a day when we weren't alone. Take me back
to an age when the world felt small.
way back before we blew it all.
Take me back to a place where I felt at home.
Take me back to a day when we weren't alone. Take me back
to an age when the world felt small.
way back before we blew it all.